missions in life. One is to get everybody to meditate, and the second one is to teach everybody the I Ching. So the I Ching is an incredible form of divination, and I've got a wonderful slideshow I'm going to share with you. Can you hear me okay?
Kendara, can I just pause you for 1 second?
Yes.
I do want to let everybody know, because we don't always record. I am going to be recording the presentation part of Kendara's thing. So if you do not want to be, that recording will not be a public thing. That'll be a link only thing. But just keep that in mind. So you can change your name or turn off your camera if you want to. But again, it's not public and it's not going to be streamed anywhere. But I just want to give everyone a heads up, just because that's fun. So sorry about that. Let me pass.
No, gosh, no, not at all.
And when the questions start, I'll turn off the recording.
So I'm okay to share now, right? The screen.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you a little bit how I got into it, and then I'm going to give you an awesome slideshow, which Chris, who's here today, made. Mine would have been stick figures. Anyway, when I was about 37, I was working at a metaphysical bookstore or psychic center called Crystal Light. No relation to the soft drink. And one of the other readers there, a man named Michael Martin, kept talking about Howard. And Howard turned out to be Howard Bathand, who was a medicine man and shaman on Lakota, on Rosebud. And that's a big reservation in South Dakota, like I said. And once a month, Howard would come to Denver, and he and Michael would go out to dinner and learn the I Ching. And Howard said, when he met me, he took my hands in both of his and said, "You're very intuitive. You need to know how to use it. I teach." And once a month for 9 months, Michael and I would go out to dinner with Howard, and then we'd study the I Ching. Just scratched the surface. About 15 years later, he was speaking at Mile High, which is this huge church in Lakewood where they have incredible speakers. And someone asked if I wanted to go. They said, "We know he was your teacher." And I went, and this man who I'd not seen in 15 years turned and said, "It's good to see you. That being said, you are in for a treat with this slideshow." And so we're going to start. Can everybody see the slideshow? Can anybody? No? Yes? Maybe? Wait, let me reword it. Let me redo this. Okay, got to go to share, and I've got to go to share, and I've got to go to, can you see it now? Sounds like a Verizon ad. Okay, so this is come learn about the I Ching, presented by Kendara Laurel, intuitive counselor and teacher of metaphysics. The I Ching is over 3,000 years old, and it's an absolutely wonderful way to connect with your highest self and get the answers you need. It really is almost like becoming your own psychic, and I'm so delighted to share this because I do tarot, which I love. I do other readings. With the cards, and again, I do like them, it's open to interpretation. You can't make the coins fall a certain way, and so that's why I can't even begin to tell you how accurate it is. Here's a very short history of a 5,000-year-old form of divination. The Chinese really came to see tossing coins as a way of putting questions to invisible higher power. They even used turtle shells at one time, and in addition to coins, now they also use yarrow sticks. I never learned that method because it's too slow and long. But it's a good way to learn patience. It's an oracle for self-development. It's used by both Confucians and Taoists. It is essential for development of character. In fact, until recently, every single educated Asian needed to know it. And people called sages would interpret it for them. It's the oldest book in the world for the continuous use for the past 3,000 years. And it's the second oldest book in the ancient Chinese library. It's translated into numerous languages. It was brought to West Germany in 1926 from China by Sir Richard Wilhelm, a German Protestant missionary who had lived in China for years. And he brought it to China, he brought it back to Germany in the way the Chinese use it. He wrote a book, And Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, wrote the preface to the book, and he called it a book for lovers of self-wisdom. And that came out in 1949. And Carl Jung said if he had one thing to say about the I Ching, it's a book for lovers of self-wisdom. So when Wilhelm brought this to Germany, it was the first time people really saw the I Ching in the way that the Chinese use it. And these are I Ching coins, but you can also use pennies. Okay, the meaning of the name I Ching. I means lizard, like change, and it basically has three meanings. Easy, it's simple, it's changing at all times, and it's constant. And all three really imply attaining inner power and self-command. And Xing is the term applied to all the ancient Chinese classics. So you'll hear things like Tao Te Ching and different things to that effect. So now we're going to talk about yin and yang, which I'm sure a lot of you already are aware of. Yin and yang are two major interdependent forces influencing all aspects and phenomena of life. Yin is feminine. It's the earth. It's passive and its absorption. It's present in even numbers, and it's represented by the tiger, the color orange, and broken line. This really isn't I Ching stuff. It's just really interesting. Yang is a masculine. It symbolizes heaven, maleness, light, activity, and presentation. Yin is earth, like I said, and yang is heaven. Both proceed from Tao, and their interaction as one increases and the other decreases. And it describes the process of the universe and all that is. And it's depicted as the intertwined Tao sign, the light and dark halves of a circle. Yin and yang operate by the 5 phases or elements, which are metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. And this is all part of the Chinese cyclical theory of constant change, flow, and interaction between nature and human events. And through the centuries, yin and yang have permeated every aspect of Chinese thought, influencing astrology, divination, medicine, art, and government. Now, the earliest teaching, when you would just ask questions, would be, you'd get one line, and if it was yin, it'd be no, it'd be wait. And if it was yang, it'd be go ahead, yes. I think you could probably still do that, but you couldn't really ask a lot of other questions that way. The I Ching consists of 8 3-lined figures called trigrams. And these trigrams relate to the elements of the nature. The thing that's so neat about the I Ching is each trigram relates to a family member and an element of nature. And the reason this is interesting to know is because you might see a hexagram, which I'm just sharing this with you, which would be fire over water, which are the different elements. It just gives you the energy. So you're not going to be quizzed on this, but it will make more sense as we go along. Okay, so the first hexagram or trigram is Li. Li is the middle daughter, and it relates to light. It's the element of light. The next one is Kyun. That's the mother. That's earth. It's receptive, and it is the mother of all the other trigrams. It symbolizes the soil, and it's ready to be made fertile by heaven. This one is Tui. It's the youngest daughter. It's associated with pleasure. It's a dilettante in a way. It basically is the youngest daughter of heaven and earth, and it's basically water, the light. Chen, trigram of heaven, is the father of all the other trigrams. It's Chen. And it's basically solid, and it symbolizes the ruler. Kan is the middle sun. It's water. It's the abysmal. The idea behind the Kan is when you don't know what to do, just let yourself go with the flow. The youngest sun is a mountain. It has the energy of keeping still. Shen is the oldest sun, and it's thunder. It's like starts and it builds up. And then Sun, which is the oldest daughter, is wind. And so these are just different elements. So you can see as you look at it, there are a lot of elements involved. So now we're going to talk about the traditional use of the I Ching, and we're going to go back with this. The I Ching, again, serves as a manual for self-development. The seeker is connecting with their higher self, and the sage is the voice through which the I Ching speaks. It's also the part that it's your higher self. It's really connecting with spirit. The I Ching can be used to resolve conflict. It can use the power of heaven to guide you, and it gives inner balance and attunes to inner truth. Now, the thing that's so cool is when I studied the I Ching, and I'm still studying, I'm a lifetime learner, they talked about enlightenment. And really, enlightenment just symbolizes lightening yourself of your fears. And I like that. It just makes it so much easier. The I Ching uses helpers. That's the energy which helps you create the insight needed to achieve change. And the idea of the I Ching is non-action. When you don't know what to do nothing. Just disengage and wait. Because when you do that, you do get the answers you need. Now, modesty, which is spoken about a lot in the I Ching, is the idea of just admitting you don't know all the answers. It's not, it's like, I don't know all the answers, I'm going to wait. This hexagram is modesty, and we'll talk more about the different hexagrams, but notice how it's broken on the top. It's broken on the bottom, and there's one solid line. So it's that type of thing. And with the I Ching, the main thing is the approach has to be sincere, and it has to be modest. So the thing is this. It's better not to ask a question that you're really emotionally involved in, because a lot of times you're going to get the answer that you want. So allow yourself to be open and step back and write down the question. So I was doing this with my friend Chris, and we decided to ask the question, what is the most appropriate course of action following my job loss? And so what we did was we took 3 coins, we took 3 pennies, heads count as 3, and tails count as 2. And that's just something I'm sharing with you. We'll come up to it later. But what you do is this. So we threw the coins, and the first one that we got was 1 head and 2 tails. So it was a solid line, and then we got a broken line. Then we got 3 of the same kind. When you get 3 of the same kind, it's known as a changing line because it has too much yin or too much yang. So when you do that, you draw another hexagram where the only line you change is the one you got 3 of the same kind. Through this was 3 heads, so it became a broken line. This, you got the 3 tails broken, 3 tails broken. So to make a long story short, what we got was Shen over Chen, which is number 51, which was just saying to take action. And I'm going to read it to you really quickly, just to give you an idea about how awesome the I Ching is. So keep in mind, you're asking what the most appropriate course of action is following your job loss. That way it's just very broad. And so what it's saying is, don't let the shock propel you into negative action. Resist, and the way through will be shown. Now think of that. There are 64 hexagrams. Each one has 6 lines, and that's what it says. It also tells you with this one that you're mired and resistant to events. Quiet your ego, accept the situation, and you'll learn what you need to. So when we did this, we did another one, only changing the 2 lines that were 3 of the same kind. We got 36, which is called darkening of the light. And what it's saying is when you're in a situation where it's very negative for you or seems negative, just be quiet and go within. In other words, don't react. So that's just an idea of what it looks like. Now we're going to talk about asking your question. The main thing with the I Ching really is how you word the question. It's huge. So each time you have a question, you should ask it in a calm, detached way, which is easier said than done if you really have a question. But try to be objective. The wording is absolutely amazing. you wouldn't want to say, should I quit my job or should I leave my partner? You would want to say, what can you tell me about my job? And things would come up saying this isn't the best job for you. Or things would come up and say, you know, if you stick in the relationship, this will happen. And I'm going to say this right now, and I say it every single time. I do readings in a bookstore on Fridays, and if I say something and it doesn't feel right, for heaven's sake, don't listen to a psychic in a bookstore. Trust yourself. That's what it's all about, really, because you really have the answers. You do, honestly. General questions are the best, and a good thing to ask is, what can you tell me about? You can also ask, what is the most appropriate course of action? Those are really, really good ones. I like to say, what do I need to know about? Here are 4 steps to finding your question. Think carefully about what's involved and how you feel. You might want to write your thoughts down. Decide what you really need to know. When phrasing your question, remember the I Ching only answers one question at a time. So you wouldn't want to say, should I do this or should I do that? You would say, what can you tell me about, da, 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 or what can you tell me about? Another thing is this, you may not get the answer to your question. You may have something else that the I Ching thinks you need to know more, or something that's really on your mind, or even more important, it might be the reason you're asking the question. Now, once your question is clear in your mind, write it down. And the minute you do the reading on it, cross it off, because otherwise you're going to have a sheet of paper with 500 little things on it, and you're not going to know what you have. Here are suggested questions for you, and really good ones. Most popular questions are relationship questions. You know, what can you tell me about my relationship? Personal growth. A lot of people want to know about their path. Decision making. Not, should I do this, but what can you tell me about? I mean, you can ask it any way you want, but the more objective you can be, the clearer and more concise the answer will be. You can ask about career. Now, here are some ways to word your question. What would be the outcome if I, my all-time favorite one, what's the most appropriate course of action? What do I need to know? That's a great one. Notice not one of these questions asks what's going to happen. Now, the question might say, what will be the outcome if? But it's better to leave it open and broad. And now we get into interpreting your answer. A lot of it is based on individual experience. It's your intuition. This is an incredible way to increase your intuition. Be honest with yourself and have faith in your intuition. Really faith. Over here, we've got a really cool thing. People are using the coins, but they're also using yarrow sticks, which consist of, yarrow sticks are this type of stick. I think it's an herb. I'm obviously not doing justice to it. And next time I do a thing on the I Ching, I'll learn about it. But you take sticks and you throw them down, and then you pick one at a time and lay them in a certain way. It's supposed to be amazing and very meditative. Read what you receive as a straightforward answer. And you can go on and say, what more? I've been known to do more than one I Ching reading on the same question if it's not clear. Don't think it hasn't worked. You know, give it a little time, read it, think about it, and come back. A lot of times the answers come when you're ready. Could it be about something else? Absolutely, absolutely. And again, let's say that you had a question about your job. You were thinking about your job and leaving it, but it really was based on the fact that you hated your boss. You might not get a thing about your job. You might get an answer on relationships and based on your relationship with your boss. So just ideas. Here is a suggested reading list. These are incredible books. There's in the handouts that I sent you to copy if you wanted to, this is in there also. First book is the I Ching, or Book of Changes by Wilhelm. That's the classic one. I don't use it because it's beautiful. It's the literal interpretation. It's very flowery. The next one is the I Ching, Book of Changes by James Legge. Third one of my absolute favorites, although I don't even know if it's in print. It's called The Everyday I Ching by Sarah Denning. Amazing book. She talks about your higher self and your lower self. The I Ching for Beginners by Mark McElroy, one of my all-time favorite books. Just so, so good. The I Ching or Book of Changes by Brian Brown Walker, another really good one. I Ching, Oracle of the Cosmic Way. This is by Carol Anthony and Hannah Moog. It's really a good one. A Guide to the I Ching. Carol Anthony is amazing. I don't know if she's still in print, but anything by Carol Anthony is just spot on. Total I Ching, which my friend Chris, who's my associate in crime, really likes, by Stephen Karcher. I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future, Hillary Barrett. And Hillary Barrett has a wonderful website. There are 3 or 4 amazing websites that you can go online and do readings. One is the Advanced I Ching. And I don't know how it works, but someone said it was related to math and the way everything was laid out, and that's why you could do it online. And The Law of Change by Jack Balkin. So these are just wonderful books, and you can also look at just the different things online, sites. How do I do the I Ching? Again, like Ari said earlier, this really isn't a class on how to do it. It's just a thing on how absolutely awesome it is, because it really is. So the first thing I've got for you is...
So Kendara, while you're pulling up and not sharing anymore, I'm looking at that. Just real quick, like as I listen to all of that, and I understand it so much more now, which this is my 3rd time going through it with you, so I get it. But the basics are, the basics are she throws 3 coins 6 times, and they have a value associated with them, and then that makes those lines either solid or broken. And then those 6 things make a picture, and that picture has a meaning. Like, that's the basic of it. So just know, like, as she's going through this, it does get, and she's going to show, I think you're going to do a reading for somebody.
I'm going to do a reading on some lucky person.
Yay.
But Ari's going to pick them so that you don't blame me.
All right. So if you're interested, just start throwing that
Put your little blue hand up. Yeah, put your hand up. And I would love to do a reading on you. And I'll be offering a special, but I've got to tell you, there is not a day I don't do the I Ching. I have got 4 apps on my phone. I'm addicted to it. But it's so incredible, you guys. It's like beyond incredible.
It really is. And when she did my reading, it very much came up. Like, I asked, what do I need to know? And what came up was a lot of stuff about Awkwardly Zen, and we're moving forward with some things, and about things I need to be wary of and what I need to be ready for. And it really has helped guide the direction of where we're going. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And just know, you guys, give me all the different names, and I'm going to put them in the order here, and then I'm going to do a random number generator, so you don't get to get mad at me. Okay.
Or me.
All right. So let's see. Give me just a minute.
Oh, no, take your time. I'm so glad you guys came. I'm like, this is so awesome.
Kendara, while I get that ready, maybe you can run through what's going to happen here.
Okay, what's going to happen is I'm going to talk about, let's do a reading. I've got 3 sheets which have it a little more involved, a little more detailed. After I've done that, I'm going to do a reading, and then we'll ask questions. And then we'll all go about our day and do what we need to do. And then you'll contact me and go, that was so neat. I really want to read. Basically, that's what's going to happen. When I gave Ari her first reading, she said, and it was so cool, she says, how many questions do you ask in a reading? And I went, well, 1, because it gets really involved. It gets really involved. So the first thing with let's do a reading is I always have a pen and a paper. And you get really quiet and centered, and you write down your question. And I know it's like running around a barn and not thinking of the fox behind you. You're supposed to be detached. So you're as detached and calm as you can be. The wording can absolutely affect the accuracy of the answer. The wording makes all the difference in the world. If you ask it wrong, it's not going to kill your reading. But if you ask it in a more objective way, it's better. General questions are often the best. Again, we said it earlier, a good way to ask a question is, what can you tell me about? And you can also say, what's the most appropriate course of action? I've got a situation right now which involves legal. It's not serious, but it's, something I'm concerned about. So I'm saying, what's the most appropriate course of action rather than should I do this or should I do this? You can also say, what will be the outcome, or what can you tell me about doing this? Or what can you tell me about doing this? But guys, ladies, the bottom line is trust yourself. Don't let some coins give you the answer. No offense to the I Ching. Okay, so you think carefully about what's involved and how you might feel, and you write your thoughts down. You can. I don't do that, I'll be honest. I just write down my question. I want to get to it and decide what you really need to know. And when phrasing your question, remember the I Ching only answers one question at a time. Now, what I find for myself, though, is I have a question, and I start doing the coins, and I get the answers. Okay, I don't need to do the I Ching. I love it. It's my favorite thing, but a lot of times I'll use it just as backup. Once your question is clear, write it down. Again, what would be the outcome if I? What's the most appropriate course of action? And of course, that's at this time. What do I need to know now? Again, and I said that earlier in the slideshow, not one says what's going to happen, but you can say, what can you tell me about? And I'm going to move this little thing up. After you've determined your question, you get 3 coins. You can either use I Ching coins. You get them at almost any metaphysical store, and you can probably get them at some of the stores on Federal where they have a lot of Asian markets. They have 4 little marks on one side and 2 on the other. The one with the 4 counts as heads, and the one with the 2 counts as tails. The Asians really like pennies because of their simplicity, and I prefer to use pennies as well. And we'll get into the value, but basically you're going to take 3 pennies and you're going to throw them. Heads equal 3. So if you get 3 heads, you're going to get a 9. You don't need to know that again, but heads count as 3, and it's a solid line if it's odd. Tails count as 2. It's an even line if it's broken. Again, even numbers are broken lines, and the way you're going to get an even number, like if you add 2 heads and a tail, it's a 6. 3, 3, and 6. You just need to know it's a broken line. I'm just sort of telling you how I'm getting the lines. 1 head and 2 tails would be a solid line. This is just what it looks like. 1 tail and 2 heads is a broken line. If you get 3 heads, it's a changing line. It's too much yang. So it becomes its opposite, which we did up in the earlier slide. And if you get 3 tails, it's a broken line. It's a changing line. It's too much yin. So this is basically just everything in a nutshell. It is on that sheet that Ari was good enough to give you all. Okay, the next thing we've got for you is...
So we're ready with someone to do a reading if you want to do that first, or it's up to you, Kendara.
Oh, we could do a reading with some... Let me look at this real quick and see.
Okay.
Let me show them this real quick, and then we'll do a reading. Okay.
And I'm putting the link
this is
in.
The tribe.
Sorry, Kendara. We just
go ahead. Go ahead.
We just put the link up for those of you who want those handouts. Both Amber and I did at the same time. Great minds. So
you great minds, yeah, for sure. Okay, so basically what we're going to do, and I will show you this when we're doing it. This just gives you a little more information on the trigrams, which we had earlier. This is the coolest thing in the world. This is called the gua. This is how you're going to get your answer. This is, and I'll show you how I'm doing it as we get it. This is the I Ching chart. I've got a giant one behind me. I should take the camera on that, but this way you'll see how we get it. Okay, who's the lucky recipient, Ari, of the I Ching reading?
It's gonna be Ethan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be objective. Oh, that's nice.
You, Ethan,
I love Ethan. I like you all. Ethan's just wonderful. Okay, Ethan. Where's Ethan? Hi, Ethan.
Hi.
What's Ethan's question? I'm so glad you won.
So my question would be, what's the most appropriate action in regards to my love life. I mean, I don't know how to phrase it.
Oh, that's perfect. That's
Okay.
wonderful. He's asking about his love life. No, that's like, but notice he just said, what's the most appropriate one?
I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording right now just because this is your personal reading. Unless
Thank you,
you're
Ray.
okay. And then someone help me remind to turn it back on if we get into teaching mode again.
So what
The best for yourself.
I love
And
it for yourself.
I was wondering how you perceive that it's different from tarot or runes or other methods of divination, and how are its answers like different, and why do you like them so much?
Those are great questions. I do the cards. You know, I like the tarot. I think the tarot is wonderful because people can see the picture there. And it's got specific meanings. Swords are strife, wands are change, pentacles are money, and cups are love. I absolutely love the tarot. But it's still, at least to some extent, open to the interpretation of the reader. I don't do the oracle. I love it. I just never learned to do it. Anything is equally good. The reason I love the I Ching is because you're trusting your higher self and you're absolutely, totally being given the answers. There's no way I would have been able to say to Ethan, you know, these are things that have been coming up for a while, or to Kaylin, if you push it. I mean, we might say something to the effect that you push it, but you're totally connecting with your higher self. And the way Wilhelm described the I Ching is it's a manual for self-development. So the reason I like it is you're really trusting yourself, and it's totally increasing your intuition. Does that answer your question? I love it because it really tells me what I need to know and not what I want to know. But again, the tarot is equally good. I know Ari does the cards. In fact, I get a reading tomorrow from her. But the thing is, any of them are good. You know, one size does not fit all. I love them all equally.
And I would encourage those of you who are in situations where you can dip your toe in, if there's something about this that's ringing in your ear, even if you don't fully understand it, explore it more, because it helps so much on your path when you start exploring these things, because you find what works for you, and everybody is different with what speaks to them the most.
And I will also say, if you start doing it, and then you go, oh my God, I'm lost. As long as you don't call me at 2:00 in the morning or 30 times a day, feel free to send me emails. I'm more than happy to. You can also text me, and that number is 7.
Wait. I'm recording. Let me turn that off before you put your phone number.